Uh, yeah, so we're live now. So we'll just wait a few minutes to see if anybody arrives. And there we go. Hi, Laurel. Hi, Paul. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
And Sean. Names I don't recognize there.
Yeah, I don't see any of my subscribers, but probably mostly yours.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get started anyway. So I'm Sue Reid. So if anybody doesn't know me, thank you, Laurel. Happy Monday. Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know me, I'm Sue Reid. My publication is Confidence Matters. As you can guess, I talk about confidence. So all things to do with confidence, and I'm very much into living intentionally and self-love, self-compassion, self-esteem, self-belief. So everything that goes into building up a good confidence. Hi, Kalpana, name I do recognize. Hello. So, Karen, so I'm here today with Karen, and this is Karen's first live. So, well done, Karen. She's feeling a
Hello.
bit nervous, so give her lots of love. Um, do you want to say who you are and introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm Karen Olson. My publication is Infinite Idealistic Insights, and I primarily write for a neurodivergent audience, mainly individuals on the autism spectrum. But I also branch out into more broad thematic topics about the human experience. And so I do write about some philosophical topics and spirituality and stuff like that as well. And so I would say that I guess my niche is somewhat specific, but also broad at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a tricky space to navigate, but it's been a lot of fun to write so far, and I'm enjoying it. So
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, because this is like part-time for you 'cause you've got a full-time job, is that right?
well, I'm basically a stay-at-home mom right now, but
Ah,
I
okay.
I was working full time for a while, and then we can talk more about that. Actually, I kind of hit a stage of burnout, and so that's kind of
Ah, okay.
how I came to my diagnosis, and we can talk more about that later if you would like.
Yeah, because we can
Yeah.
talk about it now because that's what I was going to ask you. That was one of the first things I wanted to ask you because um, you were diagnosed quite late in life. You said, and what were you actually diagnosed with? If you don't mind me
Yeah.
asking.
I do have, initially it was social anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder. And then later I was diagnosed with autism because
Right.
that was kind of the underlying cause for those other issues that I was having. And so it was kind of a process. It was over a few years when I just knew like things were really getting difficult, like just life in general was feeling really hard for me. And so I eventually I was just experiencing a lot of burnout symptoms too on top of all of that. And so that's kind of what came or what brought me to that realization that something deeper was going on and I needed to explore what that was. And so
Mm.
that's when I got my diagnosis. So
Okay. So you worked that out yourself. So it wasn't like a doctor saying, "Oh, I think you might be autistic." You actually thought, "Look, there's something wrong with me, and I'm gonna." Did you like start researching and googling as we do?
yeah, like I said, it was over a number of years. I just things just kind of were slowly deteriorating in terms of like
Mhm.
my energy levels and my capacity to like do certain things. Like I just felt less and less capable of like doing normal tasks like in daily life and
Mhm.
social interaction became very stressful. And so it kinda got to a point where I just my capacity had been completely, like the demands of life had completely exceeded my capacity to actually, function, and so that's, what brought me to this stage where I felt the need to get a diagnosis and understand better what was going on, so
Yeah. And was that like you deteriorating, or was that life speeding up and getting to levels that you could no longer cope with? So, like, were you going downhill, or was life moving uphill?
it was both. It was
Right.
kind of an escalation of demands and kind of the pacing of life just felt very fast paced and very stressful. And my ability to keep up with all of that was just not not there. I just wasn't able to, and so I hit a pretty profound degree of burnout. Like, it was pretty severe, and I'm still kind of, I would say that I would still consider myself to be in recovery from that, but I would say that I'm in much better shape than I was a couple of years ago when I, stopped working as a teacher. Like, I would say that it took a good couple of years before I even felt sort of like I was able to regain some of my, like, skills, like, because I mean, you kind of tend to go through this period of skill attrition if the burnout is severe enough. And so I felt I was really struggling with my confidence with certain things because I did feel like I had this social skills attrition and these other skills that were just kind of deteriorating to a level that I was just feeling really discouraged and frustrated about it, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And so I think that that was the main thing for me, was just I sorry, now I'm trying to remember where I started. Oh, yeah, I think just the combination of the fast pace of life and just
Yeah.
how much I was needing to keep track of. And then, well, especially because, I mean, I don't know, I guess getting into the teaching profession during COVID was probably not ideal
Wow,
because
yeah.
it
The
not
most stressful time you could possibly
Not
yeah.
only is it already a very demanding
Yeah,
profession, but I mean, even for a neurotypical person, it is. And
yeah,
in that
yeah.
type of environment, it is even more so. But for a neurodivergent person in that type of environment, as a brand new teacher, that was like super, super stressful.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my breaking point where I realized, like, okay, like, I just can't do this. Like, I know that I need to figure out what's going on with me and, like, why I'm struggling this much.
Mhm.
It kinda got to a point too where burnout symptoms, and there's kind of a bidirectional relationship between burnout symptoms and, like, trauma and interpersonal
Yeah,
trauma, and so that can kinda cause, like, complex PTSD symptoms and stuff like that, which is pretty common. It's a pretty commonly co-occurring condition for neurodivergent individuals, and
yeah.
individuals on the autism spectrum tend to experience more trauma or, interpersonal interactions as traumatic because they're sensitive and they process things differently. And so it's just it's just kind of hard, like, if there's too much going on, or if I guess they have, like, this demand for prolonged social interaction in a stressful and fast-paced environment, that can really create kind of this how do I wanna explain it? It can even feel like a, what's the word? Kind of an intense oscillation between, like, perceived competence and incompetence in a certain area, like, particularly with social interaction. Like, it can feel very intense and stressful. And so that's kind of what I was experiencing when I was really burnt out. I just
Mm.
couldn't function socially, and
Oh,
so it
yeah.
was, but I'm doing a lot better now. It's just like getting into a better environment and understanding my limitations better and just setting better boundaries for myself around my, like, what I can do each day has helped with
Mm.
that. But yeah, it's taken a lot of learning. It's been kind of a steep learning curve, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You do have a comment from Sean. Now, Sean is a single father of three, he says, and he says the work and responsibilities of being a mom adds a lot of work to your day. Well, yes, for anybody.
Yeah. So
Okay. And he also says teaching is a demanding work environment, 30 plus kids, and the parents were arguing with authorities. Did I miss a bit out there? Yeah. Oops.
yeah, it's really stressful,
Yeah.
like, you have to manage all the behaviors and then communicating with parents and,
Yeah.
administration as well in the school, and just making sure that, yeah, all the different, I don't know, relationships, and trying to, um, keep up with the workload because there's a lot of work after hours, and
Yeah.
so there was just a lot that I was trying to juggle all at once, and it felt like I didn't feel like I was, able to keep up because it kind of feels like a moving target all the time. Like you feel like you can't quite, you know, keep up with all the demands and all the needs. And so I think that that was kind of the wall that I hit. I kind of hit a wall with it where I was just like, I just need a break from this and I need to figure out like what type of schedule and structure to my day is going to make sense right now to where I can actually function again and feel like happier and more capable and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so if I can take you back then, so growing up, did you have social anxiety growing up? Were you shy? Were you, low self-esteem? So when did you realize that something was actually wrong?
yeah, I definitely would say that I had social anxiety when I was younger, but I didn't identify it as such. Like, I didn't know that's what it was. But looking back, like, I realize, oh, yeah, like, I would always go into my, fifth grade teacher's classroom during recess because I just wanted to do something intellectual and I didn't really want to hang out with the other children. And like some of those little things that were kind of weird that are like quirky that I did that I didn't realize were like that was my social anxiety, like or evidence of my social anxiety, like, it
Yeah.
was just me wanting to be in a predictable environment that made sense to me and that I didn't have to navigate the complexities of all the social interaction and understand what people needed and meant by certain things that I didn't understand and that just was confusing and stressful for me, so yeah, like, those kind of things that I didn't realize until later, like, that's kind of what, I mean, that's essentially what I was experiencing with social anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 'cause this is what interests me. Because when I was young, I was very, I was shy, I was introverted, but I also had social anxiety, and I also found it very difficult to, well, I couldn't mix with other people when I was young, I just wouldn't speak at all. I just didn't talk to anybody, um, and I mean, I've never been tested for anything, but I do, looking back, can see that I've got like little quirks, and there is, neurodiversity in our family, in some shapes or form. My grandson, who's not been tested, I know his mum wants to get him tested. He is 11, going on 12, but like, for example, we took him to see a show. Last week in half term. And all the way there, he was so excited about going, and he was talking away and chatting and saying, because he'd read the book, so he knew all about it. And he was talking, talking, talking. And the minute we got in and sat down, because there were lots of children in there, he just completely went into his own space. He didn't talk to anybody, not me, not his granddad. Like, he sat on the end so he wouldn't be sitting next to anybody else. Um, and then so he watched it and he enjoyed it, but he never said a word. And then when we came out, he just started up again. It's like he switched himself back on again. He's like talking away. But it's just that not being able to deal. And I've noticed it before that he can't deal with lots of people around where he's not sure what he's supposed to be doing, I think.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I know, since we're talking about the overlap in our, thematic content
Yeah.
area, we're talking about the overlap between neurodivergence and confidence, and there can be a really complex relationship there because there are certain strengths, and I'd really like to focus on those. That's kind of
Yeah, yeah, I do.
of this episode is to focus on the strengths of neurodivergent individuals because they do have a lot of strengths. But I think because of the pathologized model of like neurodivergence or like, autism, it's
Yeah.
pathologized in the medical model. And so I think because of that, it's easy for neurodivergent people or, especially like as an autistic person to feel really inadequate because of that because you're noticing like, oh, these are all the things that are wrong with me or wrong with me. um Really what it is a capacity thing, and so if you kind of frame it that way and think more about, we're all human, we all have limitations. Clearly I have different ones maybe than other people do, but we you know, I guess if we focus more on the strength side of it, I think we can feel a lot more confident and a lot happier and better about our lives because focusing too much on the negative traits or the limitations can really make us feel depressed or discouraged and not have confidence. And so I think that figuring out how to navigate that, um, I guess, post diagnosis, just trying to you know, there's typically a stage of grief that a person goes through when
Right.
they're diagnosed with
Mm.
autism. That's kind of a normal thing. Like, okay, I'm never going to be able to be understood or relate to people the way that I would like. I may never be able to do these certain things that I wish I could do, or maybe the quality or nature of my relationships is different than it is for other people, and that can be really sad, especially as a female. I think it's really hard to come to terms with that and realize that I care a lot about my family, but
Yeah.
they don't always understand me, or I don't always know how to communicate the ways that I would like. And so there's kind of this grief period that you go through after, like, post diagnosis, of like, realizing that your life might not look exactly the way that you thought, or that certain things that you just won't be able to do maybe as effectively as you thought or wanted to. But sorry, now I'm trying to remember where I was going with this. So
Yeah, the strengths of, like differentiating between the strengths, looking at the strengths more than the weaknesses. So looking
yeah,
at what you can do and not what you can't do, which I think everybody, even neurotypical people should do that. We shouldn't focus on what we're not good at. But yeah, I mean, I imagine. Did you? Because I would have imagine it's more of a you would have felt a relief having had a diagnosis, because then you think, well, at last I know what's wrong with me. Did you feel that as well? And then the grief came, thinking, well, oh, there's all these things now I'm not going to be able to do, and I'm never going to be normal, as
yeah.
people
It
look at.
it was definitely a combination of both.
Yeah,
Kind of a feeling of relief for that, to have that understanding finally. And then also a feeling of grief at the same time, but I think the grief did set in a bit later, and it was kind of over a period of time where initially it was really hard, but then it it's gotten better, and I think that now that I understand that I'm still me, I've always been
yeah,
me. I'm still, the same person, but I just maybe understand better what my limitations and capacities are and what my strengths are too. And that's a beautiful thing, I think, to finally have more clarity surrounding some of that. So it's not a bad thing at all. I think it's just a matter of coming to terms with it and, I guess, more fully appreciating who you are as a person. Which, might not come immediately if you are struggling with grief after that diagnosis period,
mm,
but then it does come, and I think that it comes in waves sometimes too. So there may be days that just feel discouraging, and that you kind of get that wave of grief that comes back, and then other days where you just feel like you're kind of on top of the world and it feels really good, and it's like, "Oh, I'm really good at this, and I do have some strengths that are important and that I can contribute to the world in meaningful ways." And so I think that, just remembering that, yeah, that not every day is gonna be easy, of course, but it's not for anyone, and everyone has struggles, and so
yeah,
just, keeping that, perspective in mind really helps a lot, with navigating some of these difficult, situations and challenges. And so, yeah, but, I guess, yeah, like I said, sometimes my I still struggle a bit with my working memory sometimes because of my burnout symptoms, and so that is something
right,
that
yeah,
psychologists mentioned to me, is that sometimes my working memory is kind of not there, or, like, I struggle a bit with that. But I would say that, yes, when you're able to kind of strengthen your skills, and if you've had some skill attrition, try to work through that, try to problem solve, like, how can I improve this skill, how can I get to a place where I feel better about how I'm able to yeah, just navigate life and interactions and things like that. And so working on those things, even if it takes time, it's worth it. And, just pacing yourself with it can really help to build confidence and to feel better. Like when you hit those dips or those discouraging moments, just remembering that, hey, I can come back from this. I've been through a lot and I can overcome this challenge. Just having faith in that and doing your best to, I guess, just, keep
Yeah.
going, not give up and just that self-compassion piece too, just being kind to yourself, kind of, giving yourself a little internal hug and just saying, "Hey, you have been through a lot and you're doing your best." And just remembering that is super important. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like to think that everybody is different anyway, and everybody has their things that they do well and things that they don't do well. I mean, I grew up, like I said, I had social anxiety, but I also felt that my big thing was that I wasn't very clever. That's what I told myself. You're not very clever, so you're never going to amount to much. Can't go to university. I went through a stage where I really, really wanted to be a doctor, and and then I just talked myself out of it because I thought, well, why are you even thinking about that? You're not clever. But I never even gave myself a chance. And I know now that I was a lot more intelligent than I gave myself credit for. But I just, I gave myself that belief and I believed it. And so then I lived with it. And this is what worries me a little bit about labeling anybody. I mean, it's on the one hand, it's great to have a diagnosis and to think, right, this is what's wrong with me. And I know what I can do now. And I know like how I need to look after myself. I know, like what my maybe restrictions might be. But if I know I've lost my train of thought now. But yeah, but then you kind of buy into it. So it's like that belief that I wasn't very clever. So now do you think maybe you're telling yourself I can't do this? Because lots of people have burnout, lots of people and like you said, going into teaching during COVID is not the ideal time to learn to start a new skill. Um and so do you sometimes wonder whether, like, I don't even know how to put it, like maybe some of what you've gone through, you might have gone through anyway? Or is this all because of the autism? And
yeah, I mean, I think that obviously the environment does impact things a lot
yeah,
as well. And
yeah,
so a lot of it is from that, but there's that other deeper layer of neurodivergence that does, I guess, change like my level of functioning sometimes, like my ability to keep up, I guess, with everybody else. And so
yeah,
yeah, I think there is that. Like I said, I initially was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, and then later with the autism. And so
mm,
I knew that, yeah, there were some social differences and stressors. Like I got stressed out very easily. And so that was one thing. But then the deeper layer of, neurodivergence wasn't identified until later. But like I said, there is still, I have noticed like, I don't know, just some thinking patterns that are just distinct. And so that does change the way that I interact with the world, and it does affect, my functioning,
yeah,
like I said. So,
yeah,
yeah, it is that, but it's more than that. To answer your question. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, I get that. And do you find so when you do because you write for neurodivergent, individuals, so do you find that they struggle with their confidence, more than a neurotypical would?
Probably just
Mm,
because anytime that you are, different in some way, from the status quo or whatever, you're going to maybe struggle more, I guess, with knowing how to, yeah, navigate life. And, I guess when certain systems are set up for the majority of individuals in the way that they function,
Yeah.
they might not really, adapt or accommodate to your needs, to your unique needs, and yeah, that does definitely impact your ability to feel like you're being like you're successful or like you're able to keep up, so to speak, and so maybe I've kind of had to reframe it for myself and, I guess just realize that I need to slow down the pacing and just realize that I can still do all of this. It might take me longer, but I can still try to, fulfill my dreams or do what's important to me. But it might just take me more time to accomplish some of those goals, or I might need to accommodate myself in different ways that maybe other people don't.
Mm.
And that's okay. And so just not putting too much pressure on myself to do things like, if I feel particularly anxious on a certain day or if I feel stressed, just recognizing that, being aware of that, I don't know, because interoception, that's kind of one of our sensory processing. Uh,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what you call it exactly, but it's basically our way of identifying what our needs are, and
Yeah.
so just being more attuned to that and more aware of how I'm feeling and what my needs actually are instead of just trying to pressure myself to push through, push through, push through until I burn out.
Yeah.
I've had to relearn a lot of things over the last couple of years so that I don't feel constantly overwhelmed and burnt out. And so, yeah, that's something that, I think a lot of neurodivergent individuals go through, but it's, I can't remember now what your original question was to answer that, but
Whether,
yeah, basically that.
neurodivergent people feel, are less confident overall.
Yeah, hopefully that kind of answered your question, but,
Yeah.
essentially, I think it does have to do with, yeah, just the fact that, yeah, the systems, the way they're set up is
Yeah.
often not really conducive to accommodating those unique needs, and so and not always, they're not always understood very well either, and so I think that that's another thing, um so yeah, I think that that contributes the social dynamic, especially for females. I would say that that can be really difficult if you do feel like you are different or like you have different needs. That can be hard because, I mean, as a mom, I always feel guilty. Like if I can't do something or I don't have the energy to do something, I feel like, I think there was a lot of mom guilt associated
Ye
with my lack of capacity when it was just I really just was at my limit. I just couldn't
mm,
do anymore. And so, that was difficult to come to terms with because there was a lot of mom guilt there, like, "Oh, I should be able to do this, right? Or I
yeah,
want to be able to do this, but I can't." Um, so yeah, hopefully
yeah,
that answered your
yeah,
question.
yeah, 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 and when on the days that you do struggle, is there a trigger or is it just like a dark cloud comes over you?
Um, I would say it really depends, and it depends on how well I'm listening to my body's needs and
Mm,
how well I'm attuned to what my personal needs are and trying to adapt. Because I would say that, you know, especially when you do have a family and you care for people every day, and that's a super important part of your life, and you want to be there for them and you want to help them and show up for them. I think that the hard thing is, having to relearn how to care for myself so that I can care for them effectively. And
mm,
so I'm not just completely burnt out or exhausted or unable to function. So yeah, I think that it depends on the day, but I would say that I'm trying to relearn those skills to where I'm more aware of, "This is gonna be stressful for me today. I'm gonna, slow down," or, "I'm gonna do it this way instead." Maybe take a different approach, and so that can help a lot, but yeah, like I said, it it really depends on the day, and I think I still do feel overwhelmed sometimes, of course. I mean, everyone does, I think, but
yeah,
I would say it's less frequently now, which is good, and I'm more able to manage, like, the symptoms I was dealing with and just feeling better in general most days, so
Mm. Yeah. And do your family understand? Do they, can they grasp exactly what's going on and support you?
Um, I think it has taken some time. I
Mm.
think initially, not so much, but that's just because I've always been kind of a high achiever and I've always kind of pushed myself kind of hard and like always like tried to do my best at everything. And like I think that's one thing that was kind of detrimental actually because it just made the stress levels that much worse. And so I think that maybe, yeah, it was kind of hard for them to understand, like, okay, maybe today I can't do this, or maybe today I need a break, or, and even just understanding some of the neurological differences and like the ways that we interact differently, just I don't know. They didn't always understand kind of the underlying reasons for some of the behaviors or some of the issues I was having, and so I think now they definitely do a lot better than they
Mm.
did. But yeah, it's like a process to like educate yourself and your family, of course,
Yeah.
to like better understand some of those things, and so yeah,
Yeah.
it's taking time.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, when you had the diagnosis, that must have been a relief for them as well. Like, mum's not, she's not ill. She's just a different kind of way of thinking and being.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Do you think you would go back to teaching if you could, or is that a closed door?
I don't know. I think maybe that might, I guess, manifest in a different way now in my life. I'm not sure. I mean, now that I'm doing this writing, which has helped me a lot, like it's helped me to kind of clarify like my thought process and kind of, I guess, go through like processing the diagnosis and trying to support other people who are going through the same thing or similar things.
Mm.
And so I think that maybe it will just kind of, I guess, convert into, yeah, doing something more along the lines of what I'm writing about now. So maybe not teaching Spanish, but maybe, because I was, really into languages and linguistics and everything, and I was a Spanish teacher, but, maybe more about like, yeah, I guess helping people navigate, diagnoses like, autism and finding, meaning in life and fulfillment in their lives, even through challenges. And so I maybe in a different way, but I would still like to do something with that. I think I really do feel passionate about helping other people and I do care a lot about other people. So that's something that I'd really love to do.
Yeah, because presumably that's why you went into teaching in the first place.
Mhm.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Um, so if somebody is listening and maybe they recognize that they've got some things that are different and they're wondering, um, should I get tested? Could I possibly be on the spectrum? Um, would you recommend people? At what point would you recommend people go and get tested? Or maybe not recommend, but feel that they perhaps would think about it.
Yeah. I think that that's such a personal decision, and I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of has to reach a certain threshold where the benefit of knowing exceeds the drawbacks of knowing. And so essentially, if you feel like you need and require a better explanation for your challenges, I would recommend getting tested. And
Mm.
maybe even before then, if you're really sensitive and you are really aware of your patterns and you notice things and you're like, well, it's very possible that I'm autistic and I would like to know. I mean, if it's not that important to you, like if you're not struggling that much and you
Mm.
don't care to know, that's fine. Don't get tested. It's kind of expensive and it in certain places I know it takes a while. So I mean,
Mm.
it's
In
not
the
like you
UK, it
can
takes ages if you unless you pay privately.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's not a
yeah.
decision that you would take lightly in any way. Of
No.
course, you're going to consider the benefits and the drawbacks on a pretty deep level before doing that probably because like I said, I mean, it's not really necessarily an easy process a lot of times. So it's a matter of, does this present more benefit than drawbacks at this stage of my life or at this
Yeah.
point in my functioning? Like, do I need this or not? And everyone is going to have a different answer for that, of course. So depending on, yeah, what their threshold is and kind of where they're at with, their functioning level in life and stuff like that. So, yeah, if they feel the need for it, I would definitely encourage them to do that. And
Mm.
if not, then maybe, you can still learn about your personality traits and quirks
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and feel proud about the things that make you unique. And everyone is unique. And I actually recently wrote a piece about that uniqueness a bit. I mean, it was more well, it was about existential isolation, but it was basically about how our internal subjective experiences are unique from every other individual. And so
Yeah.
we each are different, and even, autistic people are all different too. And so
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's important to acknowledge as well, is that there's so much diversity even within the neurodivergent community. Like, there's a lot of differences amongst autistic
Yeah.
people as well. So there are different levels of functioning for both the social and the repetitive behaviors. And so, and then there's also, since it's on a spectrum, obviously the presentation of symptoms is going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
And if they have different co-occurring conditions, that can contribute as well. And so, just, acknowledging and being aware of that is super important, because every autistic person and every person in general is their own, you know beautiful snowflake. They're their own individual, and they're
Yeah.
all different. And so, just yeah, I guess feeling good about the things that make you special and unique is important. And anyone can do that, but I think that, yeah, if you reach a certain point where things are just that difficult and you do feel like you need to get tested, I would encourage you to do so, because, yeah,
Yeah.
it can really
Yeah.
help a lot with, like, just providing that explanation and just feeling more confident and able to navigate life, and to receive the accommodations that you need, or be able to, yeah, get that support and understanding that you may be needing at that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, 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 and I mean, it's a spectrum for a reason. There are lots of different variations. I mean, personally, I've got my little quirks, but they don't worry me. They don't impact on my life. I don't think I need any sort of testing. My nephew's a good example. He is 25 now, and he works. He's got a very good job. He went to Oxford University, and he had we knew he had OCD, and he had some social anxiety, and he was at Oxford, and he was so stressed, like you actually. He was on the verge of burnout, and he got to the point where he was not able to take his exams. But because it's Oxford, you like it's one of the major universities in the UK. You They would not let him take a year off. It was no, you take them, and if you fail, you fail. End of. So my brother and sister-in-law took him to be tested because they said, look, he's extremely intelligent. We don't know why he's struggling with his exams so much. He's never struggled before. So it must be the huge pressure. So he went, and they paid for him to have a private test. And they said, well, he's got ADHD. And so the specialist he went to see and his doctor both wrote a letter to the university saying, you're not treating him fairly by saying he's got to take his exams. He's struggling at the moment. He needs some help. And luckily they agreed for him to take a year off and come back a year later and take his exams then,
No, that's
which meant he flew through them. Then he went to a master's and flew through that. He's absolutely brilliant. He's on medication for his ADHD. But again, because he had that diagnosis and knew what was wrong with him, it not only helped him get that space from university, but it also helped him to calm down and to be able to live his life normally rather than thinking, well, I'm different. What's wrong with me? I've got all this spinning round in my head. Then even now he struggles a lot. If he gets overwhelmed at work, my brother said he may not actually stay where he is because he's in London in the city and it's a high powered job and he struggles at times and it can't be doing his health much good. So yeah, it's lucky that he was tested. Um, my grandson's about to go to big school. He's ultra intelligent and he's applied for grammar, or his mum did on his behalf. He may or may not get in. But again, if he goes, he may struggle if he gets overwhelmed. So it probably would be a good idea for him to have a test, even if we had to pay for it. So yeah, it can be a difficult decision, but maybe worthwhile.
Yeah.
Bless.
Yeah, every individual
Yeah.
is different, and I think that, yeah, they need to make that decision. I mean, like I said, it's very personal, a
Yeah.
very personal decision, and so just whatever's right for, everyone is what they should do. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. Each person makes their own decision based on how they think it's going to help them,
mhm.
what answers they're going to get and how that answer will help them one way or the other. Um, yeah, brilliant. This time has flown by actually. So how have you enjoyed your first live? Has it been okay for you? 'Cause I know you're a bit
Yeah,
worried.
I think so. I feel bad that I'm not really great about keeping up with all these comments, though. I've seen a lot of interesting, well, let's see, there were some on book recommendations, which
Oh, from
probably
Sean.
need to be reading these and commenting. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the revolutionary neuroscience of exercise and the brain. So, yeah, unfortunately, the messages don't come out on the replay. So maybe
Mhm.
Sean can send you the directions, or not the directions, the recommendations direct to you is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, 'cause, yeah, I guess I have a hard time, like, keeping track of comments while I'm talking, and so I need to probably figure out how
Most
to
people do,
yeah,
don't
how
worry.
to do
Most
this.
people do, especially if there's a lot of comments. Anyway, yeah, so thank you everybody that's here. And it's been absolutely lovely talking to you, Karen. Um, and yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that and I hope we can do something else in the future.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you.
And is there anything that you think I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything else you wanted to say?
Um, I don't think so. I guess, yeah. I think we covered pretty much everything. I talked a little bit about my publication, which I've been really enjoying writing, and so I guess feel free to visit it if you know found this interesting and helpful, or if you know someone who is on the autism spectrum who might find my content interesting or helpful. That would be great if you could pass it along. And I appreciate you inviting me to do this with you. And I
Welcome.
guess, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll finish off there then. Thank you so much and good night, everybody. Or good night from me. It's probably morning where you are.
Oh, yeah.
All right then. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Bye.